Hello everybody, this is your Gallifreyan Time Dragon, Murphy Slaugh, coming to you live from the TARDIS, which is much better than coming to you dead from the TARDIS, because that would probably make me a zombie, or maybe a vampire, or maybe a lich, a revenant, a ghost, a wight. I'm pretty sure you D&D players could think of a lot of other creatures that exist between life and death, but we're not going to go there. Let's just stick with the fact that I'm a live Gallifreyan Time Dragon and move on, shall we? First of all, I'd like to give a big shout out to all those who live in California. I know the past few weeks have been somewhat terrifying for some of y'all, so just hang in there. I hope that the earthquakes have caused no injuries and little to no damage for your property and all of your items there. Just hang in there. Well, let's hope that those are the last earthquakes for a long, long time. I'll be keeping you in my thoughts and prayers. And for all those at Anthracon, I know that is about to end, should end by tomorrow. I hope that y'all have had lots of fun, made lots of new friends, got to see some old friends again, have the time of your life. I hope that y'all get home safe and sound, probably with a lot more stuff than what you went out there for. But that everything turns out right and you have some great memories. So, wish I could join you, but you know how the navigation systems on these TARDISes are. I try to get there and I'd probably end up in ancient Rome or in the planet Violet in the Andromeda Galaxy in the year 2387. So I'll just be stuck here and then we'll go from there. I would like to actually talk about a site that my human roommate, Carl, has been interested in for several months. The site is called scp.net, and that stands for Secure, Contain, and Protect. Specifically, he likes watching scp-wiki.net. Basically, SCP deals with the Foundation, a fictional organization that has been around since the 1800s, although there have been precursors to it, and there are examples and types of them in other countries. What the Foundation does is basically catalog, secure, and contain items, people, places, and things of anomalous nature, some of which can make them or cause them to break the laws of physics and of nature. Now, this is a site that you could join and actually put in your own entry. Currently, there are about 4,000 entries in there, over 4,000. Just be assured that if you do try to get your own article, there is a very lengthy and very strict vetting process for each article. So, I mean, they are not mean. They will actually give you guidelines as to how to write everything down, but there are certain rules to putting in an article. This is almost like having a very large, expanded X-Files organization. Now, each of these SCPs, or SCIPs as they are called for short, are housed in their own containment cell at different sites around the world. Each containment cell is specifically designed to hold the skip. So it can be made of different materials, there can be cameras, whatever it takes to keep these skips here so that they can protect us and protect the world. The Foundation is kind of a morally gray area because of the fact that while they do protect us, a lot of what they do may be morally questionable. For instance, they do a lot of human testing, though the humans that are used are what's called D-class personnel, which basically means that they are death row inmates. And a lot of them can get killed, mangled, altered in unspeakable ways, lost to other dimensions, to wherever these skips are. but some have been able to manage to get themselves freed, even if accidentally, by exploring the skips or by just the way the skips are. And some of them have actually been led happy lives, and that the skips have actually helped them out. Now, these skips come in basically 5 categories. 3 of them are used for most of the time, and the other 2 are kind of minor ones. The first object class that's used is called safe. Basically, very little resources are needed to contain the skip. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't dangerous, but as long as they are not handled or activated, they are not going anywhere. So some of these skips can be anywhere from like a novelty, something that's just really weird and doesn't really make sense, to stuff that can be a little bit dangerous. But they are the lowest category. The middle category, which most of these skips belong to, is called Euclid. Now, Euclid requires a little more resources in order to contain, although containment isn't always reliable, because the skips, not all of the Euclid skips are in fact understood. They're still learning about them, trying to figure out what they can do and how they do it. And some of these can easily slip out of the containment, although they can be easily be brought back. It's hard to say. Now, most of the autonomous, sapient, or sentient skips are in this category, simply because they do have a level of intelligence. They can figure a way out. Then you have the nightmare skips, which are in the Keter class. The Keter class are extremely difficult to contain, if they can be contained at all. Some of these skips are either so big, so far away, or their anomalous properties just do not allow them to be contained, or they will eventually break out of their containment sooner or later, and there is nothing we can do about it. It is almost a good thing that this is a fictional site, because some of these things, again, can probably give you nightmares if you thought that they could be real. Now, the 2 other type of object classes are Thalmio, which basically are skips that are used to contain some of these skips, and neutralize, which means that the skip has been deactivated or destroyed, and that they no longer pose a threat. Now, there are over 4,000 entries so far, and I'm pretty sure it's growing every day with them approving, with the administrators of the site approving new entries. So there are all sorts of entries here. There are people, there are objects. They can go through different dimensions. They can go through parallel Earth. They can deal with space. They can transform. They can destroy. They can create. They can duplicate. You name it. So let me give you an example of each of these, the safe, the Euclid, and the Keter, to show what I'm talking about. Again, it's just one example, and there are so many more, but you don't have time to go through all 4,000 of them. For the safe skip, we have 1454. Skip 1454 consists of 4 identical guys. They might as well be like identical quads, though whether they are brothers or not remains to be seen. They're not exactly brothers and not exactly clones, but they're simply 4 guys who look exactly alike and whose DNA is pretty much the same. Now, each of these 4 guys have a shared memory. Whatever one of them does or experiences, then all 4 of them experience it at the same time. They are all healthy, physically and mentally, except for they have a minor psychological illness. That's really weird. Whatever they experience with their shared minds, they believe, each individual believes that they are the only ones who are doing it. So they are pretty much unaware that there's other guys out there who are going through the same thing they are and look exactly the same. It has been found, in fact, that if you put two of them, even two of them together, they will each believe that the other is an imposter. And this will usually lead to a bunch of fighting because, well, obviously this imposter is taking my place. I mean, he's going to claim that he's gone through all this stuff. No, I'm the only one. Even if their shared memories causes some inconsistencies in logic, they do not realize this and will not acknowledge it. They won't even try to explain it. They just believe that it's normal. As an example, in one of the interviews with one of the guys, he was talking about how he did 4 different jobs. Basically, him and the other 3. Again, he doesn't realize that the other 3 exist. He thinks that he's done all 4 of these jobs. And he was talking to the interviewer how he's been working, like he's been working 198 to 208 hours a week. The interviewer was like, you do realize that there are only 168 hours in the week, right? And Skip 1444A was like, well, yeah, I have a degree in math. Of course I know this. And the interviewer was like, then how do you explain working more hours in the week than there are in the week? Like, well, obviously I've been working overtime, but, everybody does that. And the funny thing is, there was actually a 5th member of this group, but he died sometime earlier before they were all contained. And one of the other Skip 1454s was being interviewed about this. He was talking about like how he, the one that was being interviewed, had died, which sort of threw the interviewer for a loop. It's like, pardon? It's like, yeah, I died a few days ago. It's like, but you're here. Yes, but I'm dead. It's like, how can you be dead? Like I died a few days ago. I even went to the funeral. And do you know that when I went to the casket, there was some imposter in there? I mean, how dare they actually believe that this guy died when I did? What really made things worse is that evidently the other 3 of this 4-person group happened to go to the funeral also. And what really makes it odd is that all 4 of them are married. But again, because of their shared memory and their psychological illness, they each believe that all the wives are theirs for each individual. And the 3 other ones were saying, hey, get away from my wives. It's like, what are you talking about? These are my wives. And it got to a bit of a scuffle. But, I mean, these guys are perfectly harmless, but it's just, you do not want to put them in the same room with each other. So they're in their own separate rooms where they have no contact. So that's just for that safe. Now, for Euclid. One of Carl's personal favorites is Euclid 96. Euclid 96 is nicknamed Shy Guy. And this is, even though he's Euclid, he is kind of a scary creature. So, again, it's a lucky thing that he is fictional because it would give you nightmares to know that if he was completely real. Shy Guy is a humanoid entity who stands approximately 7 feet high. He has arms about 4 feet long. He is thin to the point of looking like he's been malnourished. His skin is white with no color whatsoever and no evidence of body hair. His jaw can open to 4 times the length of a normal human. In all other aspects, he looks like a regular human, except for his eyes, which also have no color. Now, Skip 96 has sort of a limited intelligence, but it's more of an instinct. He has no sapience, so he can't really think for himself. He can't talk or anything. Now, for the most part, he is in his cell and just pacing back and forth. And the only reason they know this is because of pressure plates in the floor. I say this because there are no cameras in there, because that would be a big mistake. Skip 96's anomalous properties will activate whenever someone sees his face, whether directly or indirectly via a photograph or a video. And when I say someone, I mean anyone in the world. It does not matter. The moment someone sees like a photograph or a video and sees his face and realizes that it is a face, Skip 96 will know. He will first start crying, covering his face, crying and babbling incoherently. Then 1 to 2 minutes later, he will go after the guy. And I mean, no matter where he's at, he will break through the wall and run after you. And when I say run, evidently Skip 96 can run anywhere from approximately 27 miles per hour to, well, they've redacted the full speed of his, but it had like 3 digits, so it could have been probably several hundred miles an hour that he can run. Once he is in his attack mode, think of him as like a combination of the Flash, Wolverine, and Juggernaut, which is a very bad one for him. The Flash, because he can run exceedingly fast. Evidently, he can actually outrun a military helicopter. He does not feel any pain whatsoever. So you can do what you wish, it won't matter. Now, as far as Wolverine goes, while his skin and his organs are of normal material and they can be shot at and whatnot, the thing is his bone structure is pretty much indestructible. There's so far no way to destroy it and to stop it. And as long as his bone structure is still intact, which it will be, he will still be going after the viewer. Now, in some of the logs that they've had people shoot at him. They've shot RPGs at him. So far, it had like maybe slowed him down or stopped him for about half a second before he got on his feet and kept going, as if nothing ever happened. There is really no way to stop this guy, especially since you have to be careful not, if you're going to try to do it, you cannot look at his face, because otherwise you'll be his very next victim. He will go after whoever viewed him, wherever it is, however far it is. Whatever he has to go through, he will, and he will get to you eventually. What is done after he gets to him, all I can say is that the victim will be killed, and then the rest was redacted. So, considering that there is no trace left of the victim, and the fact again that his jaw opens to about 4 times the length of the human, I think you can see what will happen. So, after that, he becomes completely docile and will start heading nonchalantly towards his natural habitat, which is wherever it may be. At which point that the mobile task force that has gone after him carefully can put a bag over his head and then take him back to the containment cell. But again, there is no stopping this guy once he comes after you. Now, the only thing that will not trigger his anomalous properties are an artist's depiction, like a drawing. Of course, one may ask, well, wait a minute, if you have a drawing of him, Wouldn't somebody have had to see him to do that? Well, yes, they would. And they managed to kind of get it done in a somewhat underhanded way. Again, I did mention that they used D-class personnel for human testing. What they did is evidently they took a picture of Skip 96 without looking. They took the photographs, put it inside a bathysphere, put this one D-class personnel who was an artist in there, put it in somewhere in the Pacific, probably in the Marianas Trench, and sent it down like 10,000 feet. They did not disclose what was going on to the D-class personnel because he probably would have told them to go take a flying leap. All he knew is that he was going to be in this bathysphere deep, that he was to pull out a drawer, take the photographs, and start making a drawing of them. Well, again, he was in the ocean somewhere doing this, so while he was doing this, of course, 96 became activated and started going after him. Then he was to take the drawings and the photograph, put them back in this retractable drawer, where it would be sent up to the surface. And then he was to await retrieval, which was kind of a lie, because they were just waiting for 96 to come after him, which he eventually did. And again, the guy does not feel any pain. He does not evidently not need to breathe or anything. So he reached the water. He went straight down for him. So unlike us humans and us furries, which do need to breathe, and that the pressure at that depth would cause a lot of pain, it did not hinder him. And all they can say is there was a bunch of rumbling and thrashing about after 96 got through with the guys. But that is example of the Euclid. Now for something even worse, we have the Keter example, which is Keter 680 or Skip 682. Skip 682 is simply called the hard-to-kill reptile. I say hard to kill. It's pretty much darn impossible. There is a picture on the file, but it is indescribable. It's some reptile, but you cannot say it looks like, an alligator, a lizard. It doesn't. It's just a very weird reptile with part of its skin on part of its snout basically burned off. But Skip 682 is a reptile that is sentient and sapient, and basically has a hatred for all biological life, especially humans. And is slated to be executed once they can find a way to kill him. They have tried other ways, including using other skips to try to get to him. The guy has been frozen, burned, eaten away, split into two, cut apart, shrunk to about 1% of its size, blinded, and so forth. 682 does have the ability to regenerate, and is extremely tough, and has been shown to even move and talk when 87% of its body has been destroyed. Eventually, one way or another, it will get back to its normal size and its normal state of being. There's been speculations that somehow it's been able to change its structure to something other than normal matter, or something other than living matter, in order to escape the effects of the other SCPs that were attacking it. Sometimes it's used intelligence to outsmart the scientists and use the SCPs against those that were trying to get to it. And sometimes things just didn't work out as planned. Now there's a lot of other skips out there. Again, you have, like, for instance, Josie the half cat. And yes, I know how that sounds. It is a cat that is only the front half. It's like the back half of it is somehow stuck in another dimension. Josie will walk as if it has four legs. So it is walking upright. It's not dragging itself on the ground, but walking as if all four legs are there, even though it only has two. And it's not just a matter of being invisible. There is nothing behind it. You can put your hand where its hindquarters should be, nothing. However, if you put your hand where its back should be and rub it, it will actually purr as if you were rubbing her back, even though there is nothing there. There are a lot of other skips that again can go through different dimensions. We've got a guy that can actually go to alternate universes and come back. Uh, we've got this tree that is growing at an incredible rate and nothing can stop it. There are sentient star systems that are approaching us right now. There's nothing they can do except to try to ensure that no one else knows about this. It's too far away to actually do any harm right now, but it's considering how far it is. If anybody looks at it through a telescope, somehow it not only knows that it is being viewed, but it can actually determine, in a matter of speaking, who is viewing it. It can make itself pulse like a Morse code and send a message, but that message will be specific to whoever's watching it. Never mind the light years that are between us and them. So there's all sorts of stories there. But again, 4,000 entries, take you a long while to look through them, especially since they have a lot of backstories, a lot of exploration logs, interview logs, stories of other survivors that have gone through this. So it's a pretty good site to look through if you want something like that. There was another one actually that I'd like to get into, if you will, that is kind of like the living embodiment of, if you will, Murphy's Law, or I should say Murphy's Law. 1440. 1440 is an elderly gentleman, Caucasian, maybe Middle Eastern European, it's hard to say. He's around his 80s, but he does not seem to age. He wanders about the countryside aimlessly and randomly, but eventually his wanderings will get within human population, which is bad. Now, he himself is a congenial fellow. He's not mean. He's not actually doing anything actively. Basically, he's been cursed so that if he's in contact with humans or with man-made objects for a couple of days, that they will begin to deteriorate. The objects will begin to crumble, people will start getting sick, and eventually there will be destruction and death, except that he will not be affected whatsoever. Evidently, from an interview that was done by an unfortunate doctor at a site that kept him without realizing what kind of properties he had, that this guy had played cards with death and, unfortunately, if you will, had won. Now, he believes that there are three brothers that are out there that only he can see. While the interviewer was talking with him, he could see one brother place his hand on the interviewer, and then the other brother appear. Evidently, which basically meant that the interview was about to be over because the interviewer was about to die. This other third brother is what his wanderings are for. Evidently, he's trying to find them so that he can finally get rest and peace and not have to do this to anybody. But right after the interview, the on-site nuclear device, which every site has it in case there's a containment breach. The on-site nuclear device, despite all of its fail-safes, and probably because of 1440's effects, actually detonated, destroying pretty much everything. 1440 was later located several thousand kilometers away, perfectly unharmed with all of his possessions, which is like a rucksack, a pack of cards, a pipe, and stuff. But again, he's wandering out there, and he's one that you cannot contain, because naturally anything contain him in would be man-made, which would be subject to his anomalous properties. So we can't get too close, we can't contain him. It's just a matter of trying to watch him at a distance and try to protect other people from him until he can find his third brother. Well, that's all from me today, so I hope to talk to y'all later. I hope if y'all have any questions or any suggestions as to what else I can talk about, please let me know in the comments. Hope you subscribe to my channel, let other people know about me. I will talk with y'all later. This is Slaugh, Gallifreyan Time Dragon, signing off. Goodbye, everybody.